We are nearing the end of the book of Acts during my series, The Facts of Acts February, where I went through the entire book of Acts, all 28 chapters for all 28 days of February, and today is day 27. Where we left off yesterday in chapter 26 of Acts, we find that Paul has appealed to Caesar and he is now headed to Rome. So, Paul is now headed to Rome. He is under a centurion named Julius, and he is amongst other prisoners as well. And we find that Luke, who is also, if I didn't say this before, the author of the book of Acts, he is with him, and a man from Macedonia as well named Aristarchus. Now, while they're trying to travel up north, they're getting these strong, heavy winds, and they're making different stops, and one of the stops is in Sidon, where the centurion actually treats Paul pretty kindly and allows him to visit with his friends to see if he needs anything. As they continue to travel, they then transfer over to an Alexandrian ship, which was a grain ship that was much larger and already headed to Italy. The travel is becoming more slow and more dangerous because they're approaching winter. So at this point, they end up reaching Fair Havens in Crete, and Paul says to them that if we keep going, we're going to lose cargo, bring disaster to the ship, and possibly even lose lives. But the centurion doesn't listen to him. He says basically that he trusts the pilot over Paul's opinion. Since Fairhaven isn't really ideal for winter, they decide to go to Phoenix instead. So after a little bit, they end up getting this nice warm south wind that comes up, and they assume that from this wind that it's safe to travel again, so they leave out. And it says that not much longer after they sail out, a huge hurricane force type of wind begins to blow. It sweeps down and it throws the entire ship off course. Crew at this point loses complete control, and they just decide to let the ship be driven by the storm. So at this point now, securing the lifeboat, they're reinforcing the hull with ropes, and they lower sea anchors to avoid being driven into other sandbars. But it doesn't matter because the storm is intensifying. And so because they're desperate and the storm is intensifying, they're at the point to now they're throwing cargo overboard. The next day they even toss ship equipment as well, which is nuts. And the Bible says that for many days there was no sun and no stars visible at all. And all their hope of survival begins to fade drastically. Paul in this moment then stands up and he begins to remind them, he's like, I told y'all it wasn't a good idea to keep sailing, but nevertheless, my God is faithful. And he actually sent an angel to visit me last night to let us know that we're essentially going to be okay. He says that the angel confirms that he will in fact stand before Caesar and that everyone on the ship will survive, but the ship will be destroyed while their lives are saved. He concludes by saying, I have faith in God and that it will happen exactly as he said it would. Now, 2 weeks goes by, and at this point they're sensing that they're now beginning to approach some land, and so they begin to check their surroundings and they check the water to see how shallow it is as they continue to sail. They start to get a little bit worried because they begin to fear that they're going to actually crash into rocks, so they begin to drop anchors. And as they're dropping those anchors, they're praying for daylight. Some sailors even try to secretly escape by getting on the lifeboat, and Paul basically warns the centurion that if they get off on that lifeboat, none of us are going to survive. I think at this point God's promise has to be fulfilled a certain way, so they kind of have to rock with what's given to them. So they have to stay on the lifeboat in order for God's promise to be fulfilled the way he said it would, which is they all are supposed to survive. So the soldiers end up cutting the ropes that were attached to the lifeboats, forcing everybody to stay on board. Now before dawn, Paul is urging everyone to eat because it's been 14 days since their last meal, and he reassures them again while they're eating that they're going to survive. So Paul takes the bread they're about to eat, he lifts it up to God in thanksgiving, he breaks it, and then he passes it out. This is now encouraging everyone who's on board that they truly will survive this storm. And if I didn't say it, there are 276 people on board. But after they get done eating, they throw out the remaining grain overboard, and this was supposed to help lighten the ship. And at daylight, they do see a bay with a beach. And at this point, they are attempting to run that ship aground onto the shore. So while they're doing this, the ship is breaking apart, but that was what Paul said. He said that the ship would be destroyed, but that their lives will be spared. Meanwhile, during all of this, for some reason, there are soldiers who are planning on killing prisoners. I guess they were assuming that some of the prisoners were going to try to escape during all the ruckus, but the centurion ends up convincing them to not go forth with that because he wanted to make sure Paul's life was spared. This is a reminder that whenever prisoners escape, that the guards are executed. So there was a lot on the line at this point. Regardless, the centurion, again, he wants to spare Paul's life, so he does prevent them from killing them. And then he begins to order that those who know how to swim, go ahead and jump now. The rest of us will grab onto debris and hopefully float onto shore. And just like God said, all 276 of them reached the shore safe and sound. And this all unfolded exactly as God promised through Paul. He was able to be an example of even through storms, even when it actually crashes and it's the worst possible scenario, God is still faithful to keep you throughout the issues that you're dealing with and struggling with. And this is honestly preaching to me in my circumstance. So that is it for day 27. I will see y'all for the final day tomorrow, day 28 of this series.